Chipotle may get all the love when it comes to food scooped out of containers by 17-year-olds, but I think CAVA takes the cake here. If you haven't had CAVA before, it's pretty much a Mediterranean Chipotle. It's really fresh, it's surprisingly delicious, and it's not available in Seattle. So if you're like me and you can't get your hands on CAVA, you're in luck. I'm gonna show you how you can make a delicious Mediterranean bowl that's gonna replace your next takeout meal. If you plan correctly, this is perfect for a weeknight. I'm talking honey harissa chicken thigh, turmeric rice, roasted red pepper hummus, pickled onions, tomato salad, and cool tzatziki. There's a lot to love here, so let's make it. We're gonna start by marinating the chicken thigh, an important step that can easily be done in advance. Chicken thigh is the go-to for this, as it's gonna leave us with a really nice, tender, and delicious protein for our bowls. The fat running through the meat of the thigh means it can be cooked a little bit longer without being totally dry and chalky, a problem with white meat. In a container, mix together 2 tablespoons of harissa, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 2 cloves of grated garlic, and then for seasonings, we'll do garlic powder, onion powder, some dried Italian herbs, and coriander. Lastly, we need a bunch of salt and pepper for this. Give it a good mix and then turn to the chicken. This is a package of chicken thigh, which in my grocery store can range anywhere from 1 pound to like 1.5 pounds. Anything around there is gonna be perfect. Trim off any extra fat or tendons from the meat and mix it into the marinade. The vinegar and the salt are gonna help tenderize the meat slightly, and everything else is gonna bring a flavorful punch that the chicken really needs to shine. The honey is the sweetness, while the harissa is gonna be the spice. Put a lid on this and set it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes if you're in a rush, but a couple hours works really well. Harissa is a North African red pepper paste that's spicy, smoky, and a little bit tart. This is a staple of North African cuisine, and it's definitely worth working into your cooking repertoire. It's delicious, and in my opinion, it's one of the hallmarks of most CAVA dishes. Pickled red onions are a non-negotiable in my bowl. What's really nice about these is you can make them ahead like on a weekend, and you can use them for so many things other than just this bowl. So make a batch, keep it in the fridge, they last for a really long time, and they're super delicious. Start by slicing half a red onion into a julienne, and if you don't know how to best do that, check out my primer on cutting onions. Place your sliced onions in a jar and set that aside. I ended up having to use a little bit more than half an onion for my size jar, but really the container itself is gonna dictate your measurements for this. Mix together red wine vinegar and water in equal parts, and for my jar, that's about a half cup each. At the stove, bring your water vinegar mixture to a boil with a large pinch of salt, and then pour that over the onions. Place the lid on and let it cool slightly at room temperature, and then set them in the fridge. These need a few hours in the fridge to really get that nice, beautiful pink hue. Again, they get better with time, so keep them around. This should line up with your chicken marinade, but if you're tight on time, plan on making these ahead or on the weekend. Again, they keep super well. They're really delicious, and they go on everything. Hummus is something that we constantly have in our fridge. It's pretty much a perfect snack anytime. However, if you're keeping up with groceries lately, it can be pretty expensive, and making it at home means we make it for a whole lot cheaper. Like a can of chickpeas is maybe $1, and it becomes a canvas for any kind of flavor you could want. Today, that flavor is gonna be roasted red pepper, which we can make by grabbing a red bell pepper and holding it over the flames on your stove if you've got a gas burner. What I like to do though is just throw it under the broiler on high and turn it around as it gets charred. You want the whole thing to get nice and dark and blackened. Once that's done, place this in a bowl and cover it with plastic wrap so the pepper can steam and become tender. Once it's cooled enough to handle, remove the top and seeds, and then wipe off the charred skin with either like a paper towel, or if you get it right, you can just pull it off with your hands. Slice that into a smaller size so it can fit into our food processor, and then slice a lemon in half while you're here. We're gonna need that as well. Into the basin of a food processor, put a can of drained chickpeas, a 1/4 cup of tahini, the juice of a lemon, those roasted red pepper pieces we cut, and a clove of garlic. Let that blitz for a while so that everything is able to break down, the chickpeas begin to mix together with the tahini, and it starts to get smooth. While that's running, drop in 2 ice cubes one at a time to give it a little bit more liquid, a little bit more fluff, and so that the food processor doesn't heat up. This leads to a really nice and smooth hummus, but you'll see we haven't added olive oil yet. The olive oil will actually like turn really bitter if you let it run the entire time in the processor. The notes you get are like vegetal and really kind of gross, and it just overpowers the entire hummus. So save it till the end. It's gonna save you a lot of flavor, and you're gonna get a much better final product. Drip in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil as the blade runs on low. We want this hummus to be crazy smooth, and to do so, do most of the mixing up front, and the little bit of olive oil that we add is just gonna be to bring that final bit of nice texture that we need. I usually like to season this with salt, pepper, smoked paprika, cumin, coriander. Anything I've got lying around works really well for this. Cover that up and set it in the fridge while we work on the other dishes. Again, this is a nice thing that you can make pretty much at any time, and it stores for a while, and you can snack on it when you want. Another delicious component of this dish is tzatziki, a creamy and tangy dip that cools the whole dish off and makes you want to keep coming back bite after bite. Grate 2 Persian cucumbers on the tiny side of a box grater into a clean towel or cheesecloth. Quick question, does anyone own cheesecloth? Like, I cook a lot and I don't think I've ever owned cheesecloth. It's not like, oh, let me just grab some cheesecloth at the grocery store. So use a clean towel, mix a pinch of salt into the grated cukes and squeeze out all of the extra water. There's gonna be a ton, so really go at it here. Place that into your container and grate in like 2 to 3 cloves of garlic and the juice of half a lemon. Add in 2 cups of plain Greek yogurt and a good glug of olive oil. This benefits from tons of fresh herbs, so be sure to add in some mint, some dill, and some parsley. I'm sure that no Greek grandmother has ever measured the amount of herbs they're adding, so I'm not gonna do so either. Just a note, don't go crazy on the mint or dill and you're gonna have a really good time. Add in a large pinch of salt and give this a mix to bring the whole thing together. It should be tangy, fresh, and really tasty. Pop on a lid and set it in the fridge while we finish up the rest of the dish. The tomato salad that we're gonna be making is quick and fresh and can really be used for a ton of other things as well. Usually not like the biggest fan of cucumbers in all honesty, but this kind of makes me see their purpose. They're kind of crispy, watery, and help the whole dish feel more balanced. The ratio I like to use for the salad is about 1 part thinly sliced red onion to 2 parts cubed Persian cucumbers to 3 parts cherry tomato. Slice your onions into strips, the same kind of julienne we had for the pickled onions, and then cut those pieces in half. Because we've got the pickled onions, we also don't want to like overwhelm the dish with raw onion flavor. Dice your cucumber and then season them with salt to bring out a little bit of that water that they hold on to before it goes into the salad. Slice your cherry tomatoes in half and place those in the container with the onion. What I like to do is whatever herbs I've got lying around following the tzatziki, I put those in this as well. So any of the mint, any of the dill, any of the parsley, that all goes in here. Place it at the bottom of the container below the onions, and then onions on top, tomatoes, and then cucumber on top of that. That way it can sit in the fridge until we're ready. I really like to drizzle the olive oil down the side of the container so it doesn't like soak into everything just yet. It sort of sits on the bottom with the onions and the herbs. And then once we're ready, we can just squeeze some lemon into it, put the lid back on and shake it, and our salad is ready to go. It's really simple, it's really easy, and this way of storing it helps it have a little bit longer of a shelf life until you're ready for it to go. With all of the spicy, tangy goodness that's going on, it's nice to have something crunchy and cool to munch on. CAVA has a Harissa vinaigrette that you can't really miss if you're getting a bowl, but the recipes for it on it are super split. Mix together 6 tablespoons of a good tasting olive oil, 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, and 1 tablespoon of Harissa. We're gonna season this with cayenne, coriander, cumin, smoked paprika, and some of those dried Italian herbs. If your Harissa is thicker, you can add a tablespoon of water to thin it out slightly. If it sits in the fridge for too long, you're gonna wanna add a little bit of water as well. Shake it up before you're serving and you're good to go. This may not be an exact copy of the Harissa vinaigrette, but it gets really close and it works perfectly well here. I'm gonna whip up a bed of rice for all of this deliciousness to sit on and for it all to soak in and get really nice and saucy, and basmati is the go-to here. CAVA has the financial backing to use saffron in their rice, but not me, so turmeric is gonna mimic that yellow color. Wash your rice and cook it in a rice cooker with a ratio of 1:1 rice to water. If you're doing this on the stove, use like 1 cup of rice to 1.5 cups water or so. Add a half teaspoon of turmeric for that beautiful yellow color and a large pinch of salt. Let that cook and you've got some beautifully fluffy basmati rice, perfect for sopping up all of the juiciness from the chicken. And speaking of chicken, we're gonna grab the marinated chicken from the fridge and place a large pan over medium heat. We wanna be careful about getting the pan too hot because the honey and the harissa and the marinade can burn and stick to the pan. So we're gonna go a little bit lower than usual for the chicken. At places like Chipotle or CAVA, they've got massive grills that can easily be scraped, and so they can go pretty hot for searing chicken. What I like to do is sort of a medium heat here and constantly flip the chicken so you still get some of that browning. The glaze has time to cook and sort of like turn into a little bit more of a condensed seasoning for the chicken to rest in. Because the heat isn't crazy high, we don't need to worry about getting all of the color right away. Flip your chicken a couple times as it cooks to kind of sop up all of the glaze that's forming in the pan. These thighs need about 10 to 15 minutes to get all the color they need and to remain super juicy. Thigh is great for this because the meat's not gonna overcook at all in that time. Just monitor the heat and make sure that the harissa isn't gonna burn and the honey's not gonna stick or burn either. Remove the chicken from the pan to rest and pour on any of the juicy glaze that's still in there, that's all delicious flavor that we wanna make sure gets on the chicken. chicken. As the chicken cools, we can toast up some pita in a pan with a little bit of olive oil, get that nice and crispy, and then when it comes out, season it with smoked paprika and salt. These can be cut into little chips, and you can use it to top your bowl, or you can just have them around to dip in our hummus or the tzatziki. These are just a really, really nice thing to have around, super delicious, and makes our bowl a little bit more special too. We're pretty much ready to build. We've got all of our beautiful parts ready to go. The chicken can be cubed and then toss it in any of the leftover juices. Give the chicken a taste and add in probably another pinch or two of salt just to make sure it pops really well. You're gonna wanna notice how juicy and well seasoned it is. You're gonna wanna taste it to make sure that's balanced perfectly between the tangy vinegar, the sugar, and the spice from the harissa. To build our bowls, you're gonna wanna lay down a generous portion of rice and go item by item. Top it with some of the tomato cucumber salad, put on a handful of chicken, a scoop of tzatziki, a scoop of hummus, the pickled onions. You could put on some spring mix or some spinach if you've got that lying around in the fridge as well, a drizzle of that harissa vinaigrette, some crumbled feta if you've got it around, the toasted pita. This bowl hits sort of like every possible craveable flavor you want on a weeknight for a healthy meal. It's got that little bit of sugar from the honey, it's got the spice, it's got tang, it's cool, it's delicious, and something that you're definitely gonna wanna make. If you've got the forethought, you can plan ahead and make a couple of these dishes beforehand and just keep them in your fridge and eat them with other parts during the week. You're gonna be having a really, really good time. You could easily just make the chicken and the rice the day of, and then everything else just have prepped beforehand. Your pickled onions are gonna keep forever, vinaigrette keeps a long time, hummus will stick around. It's just a great kind of catch-all. It's delicious, and it's gonna be really, really delightful for your weeknight meals. Take it from me, this is what you wanna be eating on a Thursday night after a long day of work. It's a lesson in brightness, in acidity, in saltiness, and in spiciness. It also keeps really, really well, so that day 2 leftover lunch for Friday is gonna come out really delicious, and your coworkers are gonna be jealous. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you being here. Let me know in the comments down below what you would top your bowl with. I wanna hear if there's anything interesting that you get that maybe I don't. I wanna give a massive, massive shout out to the amazing people supporting me on Patreon. It means so much to me, and there's more people joining each month. Check it out, patreon.com/CameronMarty. If you're interested in some of the cool benefits that you can get there, sign up, and I'd really, really appreciate it. If you're interested in another weeknight meal, I've got 3 pasta recipes that can be made in under 10 minutes right here. They all come out delicious, and it's worth checking out. Thank you again for watching. Cheers.